Welcome to the Top Business Leaders Show, powered by Rise 25 Media. We feature top founders, executives, and business leaders from all over the world.
Hi, Chad Franzen here, co-host for the show where we feature top restaurateurs, investors, and business leaders. This is part of our SpotOn series. SpotOn has the best-in-class payment platform for retail, and they have a flagship solution called SpotOn Restaurant, where they combine marketing, software, and payments all in one. They've served everyone from larger chains like Dairy Queen and Subway to small mom-and-pop restaurants. To learn more, go to SpotOn.com. This episode is brought to you by Rise 25. We help B2B businesses get ROI, clients, referrals, and strategic partnerships through Done-For-You podcasts. If you have a B2B business and want to build great relationships with clients, referral partners, and thought leaders in your space, there's no better way to do it than through podcasts and content marketing. To learn more, go to rise25.com or email us at support@rise25.com. Michael Karsch is my guest today. He's been an entrepreneur for 25 years and has successfully grown two very different types of businesses. First, in the hedge fund industry, he launched a fund with $150 million of assets that grew to $3 billion. Second, he bought Juice Press when it was 4 stores and grew it to 80 stores. Michael, thanks so much for joining me today. How are you doing?
Very good. Thank you.
Hey, tell me, how did you transition from the hedge fund industry to the food and beverage industry?
Well, there's different ways of focusing on that, but point number one would be that I was very lucky to have my own hedge fund at a young age, and that afforded me the opportunity to be able to have a second career because I was able to be successful at it within 5 years, like basically 5 years out of business school. And so therefore, I felt the reason why I wanted to have a second opportunity in a different way was that stock picking is very passive, even when you're an active stock picker. So unless you're an activist, and I really wanted to learn what it was like to be more hands-on and operational and have more of a vision that I can control its destiny more than stocks.
What was it about Juice Press that attracted you to invest?
It was a small company, as you said, 4 stores, a lot of passion behind the brand. The cult, there's like a cult following in an area of the market, health orientation that I was excited about. And I loved the sort of vertical integration. I didn't want to be a retailer that's just selling other people's stuff. I wanted to be able to put my own imprint on it and create hopefully more value by having, controlling the whole kind of the supply chain much more. I grew up, as I grew up, but more like my teenage college years, like cool brands, like at the time Gap was a cool brand, and like even like Rocky Mountain Chocolate Factory when I was a little bit in college, and J. Crew. And I always liked how they were able to curate their own experience in the store rather than just being a reseller. And that's what Juice Press was.
Very interesting. So were you a customer, like an avid customer or anything of Juice Press prior to investing?
I was a medium one, but I got involved in stages. My wife was already, and a bunch of her friends were more of the early adopters. Early on, Juice Press was more like at least 70% female, and now I would say it's like 60%. It's pretty dramatic difference. Actually, guys are focusing, or whatever, proper identification, but a lot more people are trying to live this type of lifestyle than before, whether it's plant-based, just eating better for you, or frankly, just eating premium. I think fast food in general has not really caught the wave of premium, and a lot of other things in consumer world have become more premium over time, meaning like Soul Cycle or Equinox, and people in other cities desirous of living a certain elevated, having those elevated the type of interactions, experiences. Obviously like a Whole Food versus a traditional supermarket et cetera. But in fast food, the traditional larger box fast food is still the same thing. Chipotle would be considered more premium. And then of course, there's a lot of people, but they're generally more in the decadent space, like the melt shops or the, taco place, like more exciting, interesting taco places that are trying to be like the next gen. And in my own way, that's what we're trying to do, is be our own next gen in this grab and go beverage led fast food.
How long ago was it that you invested in Juice Press as a 4-store entity?
10 years ago.
10 years ago. So take me through kind of the first steps. You had obviously been very successful with your hedge fund. Now you're getting into this new industry. What were the first steps when you got started?
At first, I was more of a passive investor. More was about trying to understand what the drivers are of the business, trying to understand how I can create a scalable outcome. And frankly, since it's entrepreneurship, you don't know what you don't know. And I think coming from a stock picking perspective, I learned fairly early on the difference between being an operator and being a stock picker. And that's I think it's a very exciting realization, and it's certainly a very stimulating one and a growing one in terms of personal growth and professional growth. But I have a lot of respect for operators because, stock picking, you're just looking at things at a sort of a 10,000. No, I don't know if you call it that. I was flying at like 1,000 feet level, and you're talking about being, really in the trenches and interacting with people all day long and thinking about creating motivations and always like it's really iterative, the ops versus the stock picking. Stock picking sort of like, okay, I'm going to maybe invest a small position, grow it, get a chance to meet the CFO, CEO, do some channel checks. And then you're thinking about like, okay, what can I do to try to create legal differentiated research? Here, it's like you can't control COVID and those type of exogenous factors or minimum wage. So those are kind of the exogenous factors. Stocks, you just can't control day to day, but that's like a constant in terms of that feeling. And you can't tell them what to do. You can't really tell management what to do. Here, it was different. It's like I really woke up to like, geez, I have to understand how the business really works in order to affect change. So you're like always interacting with like recipe development and costing, the aesthetics, but the aesthetic, or even like in the quality of the product, like the taste of it versus the price point versus the, so what margin are you getting? What are the calorie, in this case, like nutrition, calorie counts, and, shelf life. And so there's just like so many more variables that go into your decision-making process.
So what went into learning all of that stuff? Did you just start working at a store? Did you work at multiple stores? Did you just visit all 4 of them kind of regularly?
I was visiting the stores all the time. I was working in stores, but I think like somebody, it's like the smarter you are, the more you realize what you don't know. So It's like I always feel like, I hadn't felt that way in stock picking after the first, like, I don't know, decade or so. But like here, it's like, oh, I can't believe I didn't realize that. Now I know that, and now I'm going to figure this out. And then you're like, a month later, you're like, oh, I can't believe I didn't know these 3 things. I wish I knew those. Now I'm going to fix that. So there's like always things like you always wish like, oh, I wish I had figured out how to get there faster. And then you can like be late, go back in your mind like, I wish I had gone faster. But the reality is like you have to live these scenarios, look at them different ways, find maybe different people, maybe the environment changes. That's definitely happened. And therefore strategy changes or something that wasn't possible before now technologically is possible, or consumer demand wasn't a certain way before, and now it is. And so you're constantly going through those thought processes at this stage of our development.
So you kind of knew that you didn't know what you didn't know, and you knew that you had to take steps to learning them, however that looked, and even then you learned
I
more
think I
than.
thought I knew what I knew early on, and then
Oh, you
I
did.
started to realize I didn't know what I didn't know. Like, and
When
then I got to hit a point where I was like, okay, I think now I've done my 10,000 hours.
mhm.
I actually believe now in that. And I think I think I'm on the right side of history in terms of like how to look at this thing.
Was it your comfort level that led to the expansion, or was it just those 4 stores were doing well and it's time to expand?
Yeah. Yeah. I thought, but because because we have a central distribution production facility,
Hmm.
we needed to amortize those costs. So I felt like the unit economics would get better, as we grew, which was mostly true. But there's some positives and negatives in that, there's definitely some value to just having, I'm not even say one store, but like 2, 3 stores and just watching and learning. If I had it over again, like there's like first mover advantage versus that. I think in hindsight, um, I would probably say that I would be better off um, drilling down longer on a smaller number of stores and seeing all the different scenarios that get developed. Because not just me by any means, I just see like other retailers doing things and like there's an allure early on, everything's like when you're the new person, the new brand, the new concept, everybody's flocking to it. It's like a relationship, as far as I remember from, my many years ago before I was married. But there's like, my point is like there's that first initial, the consumer has this first initial like mysterious and exciting and that's only accelerated from the consumers I see because with the growth of social media and a desire to socialize in different ways, it's like people just love this like pop-up and Instagramming and waiting online and telling people you waited online and giving people advice about what you should get and stuff. And the problem with that for a lot of entrepreneurs that I've seen in the food space is like you kind of somehow believe that is going to be the forever. And it's not that you can't still have a great business, but building the business on that forever will lead to a number of mistakes. It could be the way you design. I'll give examples afterward, but it could be the way you designed the store or the speed in which you rolled out. And then it's very hard to undo those mistakes. So I should say the only company that I can really recall that like just created that aura and just kept going was Chick-fil-A.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they're like the guys in terms of like, oh my God, like this thing just keeps going. But if you think about like Krispy Kreme, when people used to wait online when there was a red light, when it was hot, and now Levon's Bakery still has a good business, but like it used to be like lines that kind of the cupcake guys, all the Magnolias and all these things. If you buy into that being the norm, you're going to pay the wrong amount for your rents. You're going to set up your store in a way which doesn't lead to evolution. And I think you can overstaff, get used to a lazy staffing, and that's where problems come in. One of our competitors, Press Juicery, they're out of LA. They sold to a family office about 5 years ago. And the whole thing is based pretty much, the large majority of the business is based upon having a big production facility and focusing on selling press juice, right? Fresh bottled, not fresh. It's actually not fresh. But it's bottled, still relatively short shelf life, juice. And as a result, they built their stores very small and very much only focused on refrigerators. And then they tried to kind of pivot, because what I saw in our business, and they must have seen it too, was like people started to really want smoothies made to order, and they weren't set up for that. And there was no place to like rebuild your smoothie, like rebuilding a smoothie, like going from no smoothie bar to a smoothie bar in a box that's like 800 square feet is very time consuming, costly. And frankly, when you already have 80 stores, would be like really, really a lot of capital and pain. And so as a result, they were caught off guard, and they can't really pivot in that way. They tried to create a different model by creating some allure of like made to order by putting in ice cream machines, like dairy-free ice cream machines. The problem with that, and that worked for a year or so from what I can tell, and you can see why they did it, because it was like, let's create some buzz and excitement that's kind of like an acai bowl with toppings, etc., and it's better for you. So I get it. The problem was like ice cream is even more, let's just say competitive. It's more susceptible to change and growth and innovation than other areas. And then also those machines are not, so like operation, that's what I was talking about before, like the difference between concept and operations. Operationally, there's a reason why people want to kill McDonald's over McFlurry machines, so like they created another set of issues. So that's kind of stuff I'm talking about, where you see like what pace would I go again, or like how you set yourself up, all these things are things you just learn when you're in it for a long period of time.
Yeah. Some of these potential pitfalls or missteps that you talked about, did you learn those from experience or from observation of other businesses, or both?
Yeah, I had to learn some of the mistakes myself, and some of it I learned from the macro environment. Minimum wage going from $9 to $16 is a dramatic lesson in learning how to reshape your business model. And also COVID was a tremendous challenge, like forced me to learn how to have an online supermarket and learn the unit economics of that very quickly. And so all those things, I think the biggest thing I learned, there's a lot of things, but like one of the biggest things I learned is that like as an entrepreneur, all of your new ideas, like you think are going to be the thing, like the silver bullet. And the truth is you're lucky if like a couple of them are. That's all you need, luckily. But sometimes it's just like too often you're just like shocked that it wasn't really that big of a deal. Like, oh, everybody's going to want this. And you're like, oh my God, like, sometimes you have to think like, okay, maybe I marketed it wrong, I'll redo it. And sometimes you're just like, wow, like, I don't know why I can't get them to care. And so I think that's somewhat of a, I wouldn't bet big anymore in terms of like assuming that you've got the thing. I think that there's stages of it where you realize you have the thing, and you have time to keep placing your bets as those. And luckily, like our online supermarket was like that because of whether it was because we were good or the environment. I'm sure it was definitely partially the environment, but I also have a great team. But like, when Fresh Direct and Peapod, these guys couldn't fulfill demand, we were there, and that was the value of having several 100,000 existing customers with our email list. And we were able to generate thousands of orders really fast for basically no money. And that definitely taught me about the value of knowing your customer, having a reputation that, is reliable. But also I've seen other instances, as I said, where it's just like, I try to understand why it is. I think the biggest thing I've learned in terms of psyche is that people get to know you as something, and it's very hard to undo what people think of you.
Mm.
And that can be really good. Like in the example I gave, people think about us premium, better for you, some of those things, critically important. But like convincing them that they should be getting their coffee every morning from us, right, is like very different. And you either have to have the advertising budget to power through that in order to get people to buy in, or you may never get there, because that it's really interesting to see how much people need that focus in order to be guided to what they will do as taking action.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was going to ask you how much guiding, or I guess educating, you might have to do. Is there enough of has our culture evolved enough that there's a pretty big market looking for, healthy options? You're not trying to convert still the fast food generation to come over to your side.
Right. So I'd say I'm very proud of a lot of the stuff, and there's definitely work still to be done. I think that what has helped us is that clearly, like I can remember like team members here, used to never really want our product. There were a very small number of people who worked here who wanted our product. And that makes me really happy. I see a lot of team members who want an acai bowl and want a smoothie, and that's an evolution I've seen, which is really nice. Price-wise, on a relative basis, we're cheaper than we used to be because we were way above market, and now it's been a long time, and we've raised prices a combined 3 to 5% or something. And most, like a lot of fast food places have increased prices, 30% or whatever over time. So that gap is narrowed, and there's a good market, basic microeconomic reason why that's happened. I think that's good for us, because we do have the premium quality. But you really, what I do realize is like, you have to, like, we have had to evolve our product lineup. Somebody gave me good advice medium way through this all. They said, there was a guy who ran Pepsi's Better For You business. And he said, people are not loyal to how they get healthy. They're loyal to platforms that they think they can trust and make healthy. And I thought that was really, really good, sound advice. Mm-hmm. And I do see that. I see that in reality. It's like people, it's not just how they get healthy. It's also like, because of all that's gone on in this country, and plus social media, like, and just like people judging one another or not, people have gotten very clear about what they're willing to be accountable for, or what they feel a company is doing to help them or not. And my point of bringing that up is like, people don't want to be judged when it comes to food anymore. It's like preaching to somebody by telling them that everything is like perfectly 100% healthy by accident where everything has to be plant-based. It kind of has a negative connotation to a lot of people. It's not by accident, it's being judgmental. People want to feel like they're enjoying their life, that they're doing a good job overall. They do want, as I said earlier, they do increasingly want something better for you in terms of, but better for you can mean like making you feel happy, not just. So that plays to my advantage, because I can, without people like the core group of ultra judgment, like ultra committed group of people to the plant-based movement, who are super important, but they're not but they can by accident be holding you back from helping provide plant-based everywhere. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is like, if you have a bunch of customers who are like, you're using honey, and honey, I think the bees aren't being treated properly, and honey is not technically vegan. And we start getting into fights about whether it's vegan or what is it that's, you start getting into that realm, it makes your product lineup very narrow. And especially when you get outside of a few cities, that's the kiss of death to retail. You need to have a broad enough product selection that is coherent, but broad enough to amortize your fixed costs. And I think a lot of people miss that. I had to take a while to really understand that. But you asked if the consumers are accepting, and I would say the consumer is so programmed to look at each store as a silo that it is very hard for a consumer. Like, I have these fantasies of like amortizing my box sometimes. Like, how cool would it be if like after 4 o'clock I could turn it into an ice cream place and like let Van Leeuwen operate it all night and then I'll come back. It sounds actually really great. It would be even better if you could be serving, have a big coffee business and then you have less labor and you amortize it. But the reality is consumers have a hard time wrapping their head around it. And they put things into boxes and as a to get there. And I have some ideas on how to get there. But what I mean by get there is, how do you actually create economies of scale and amortize your fixed costs? Because retail, especially the food industry, has generally been a very low, especially since the labor's gone up, very low margin. And people are trying all kinds of creative ways to raise that margin. I mean, obviously, one example are the delivery platforms. What they're trying to say is you have these fixed costs. Hey, why don't you use the downtime or extra capacity? Sure, you're going to pay a big fee, but even if you pay us like 25% but your gross margin's 75%, you're still coming out ahead because it's incremental capacity. They try to convince you it's incremental. And they made a huge business. I mean, in a way, they've created more fortune than most food brands by having that thought process. So there's, obviously ghost kitchens tried to do that. I think ghost kitchens have failed because the only synergies were the real estate costs. There weren't, and maybe build out costs, but there weren't really any synergies of management. And that is critical, because I always look at like a food court looks great, but a food court, if everybody has their own manager at the food court and everybody's buying from different places or, not buying as one, then that synergy is not there. And so, but you see a lot of people trying to figure out how to crack that code as a result.
What has been your, you've expanded from 4 to 80 stores. What has been your approach to franchising, and will that change in the near future?
So far we haven't really franchised, but I think that we will consider like selling off some of our company-owned stores to get our track record going. It's been great to have the company-owned stores so we can continue to test and get better and more knowledgeable, so we can be a better partner. But ultimately, eventually, we will be a franchisor.
What has gone into the decision to not franchise yet?
It's like really, the franchise industry is great because there's a lot of money there, and there's a lot of cities, a lot of the great brands have been taken already, so there's demand for new ones. Our concept, I think, is is actually really perfect for kind of the person who wants to buy themselves a job, who like a couple, or or somebody just wants to like like live this lifestyle and espouse this lifestyle. But the franchising business that I've seen at the same time is like there's a lot of people out there who own like companies that own 30, 40 stores, and they're looking for a new concept, or they already operate two concepts. They want a third concept. And I've been trying to figure out which direction I really want to go in. And there's a lot of subtle implications about what products I would offer and how I would offer it. And so I'm still kind of figuring out what that other leg looks like. But I'm surely always thinking about it.
What do you once you kind of open yourself up to franchising? What do you think what would make Juice Press a good opportunity?
Oh, I think that great thing about Juice Press is that first of all, we have a brand that tens of millions of people know, and probably maybe even 10 million people have tried it, so it's awareness. That's why they put us at LaGuardia Airport and Delta Terminal and stuff like that. We are attracted because there's not a lot of equipment in order to be in business. It's really it's all about the electric, air conditioning, and then some refrigerators and blenders. It's not a big build out in that way, so that's very positive. And it's very trainable. Like, we've made over 20 million smoothies, and very clear on how to standardize that process, and it has a very good gross margin. So those are the things that are very attractive about it, and those are substantial. But at the same time, I think about other cities and like I feel like I'm still exploring the last piece of what the cohesiveness of that store. Like, we really increased, for example, our snacks in the past several years, and it's been very successful. We started a hot food program based on product we make, which I do think is differentiated. It's done fine. So I'm constantly like tinkering. We are working right now with a couple coffee companies that like to use their brand, and we are, the great thing is like equipment technology gets easier and it's getting better and better. So like coffee, you don't need a barista per se. So you can have like, you can really replicate an entire coffee store within your same process flow. But overall, what's super exciting also is just like 75% of Starbucks business now is ice drinks. And that's us. We do we do a lot of ice drinks, and we're really good at it, we think. And our food's a lot better. So in that context, I feel like if I can spend the money and convince the customer, they would see why we could be a superior, alternative to a company like Starbucks.
Yeah, you talked about a lot of the things that you tried, that you've tried, and a lot of them have worked. What would you say is the most significant innovation that has occurred with Juice Press since you've been involved?
Thanks for asking. I feel really proud that there's been a lot. So I'll just rattle off a few.
Great.
One off the top of my head is we made our own. A lot of times we just look at what other people are doing, and then we're like, oh, that's not very hard to do. That's one of the great things about having our own significant production facility, is that we realize like we're really good at using production equipment and recipe design, and we buy and scale. So we're not really phased by when we see what some other food entrepreneurs are doing. We're like, yeah, it's getting a lot of buzz, but we know like we'll go and prove to ourselves not so hard. So as a result, like I saw, and I think they did it was the smoothies to the home business, Daily Harvest, like it's great. I'm not trying to knock them, but like I saw what they were doing, and I was like, how can I not know how to do that, as well as them or better? And we were able to create, our own do-it-yourself kits during COVID very fast. And now we're using them in food service. Restaurants use them, and the airports are using them. And basically, the smoothies come out even better than in the store, and they're cheaper because, meaning compared to like if you were going to buy one, because we weigh the actual measurements in the commissary. And that is the biggest obstacle to a good smoothie, is whether it was made with the right proportions versus in a store where you're dependent on the team member, getting all the measurements correctly.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just awesome to see, like at LaGuardia Airport, like essentially somebody could work Shake Shack in the morning and then they can come, down the terminal and work for us, step in, and it's just like go. And the throughput time is good, the quality is good. And so we've been growing that business a lot. Very excited about that. Also, I feel like just the overall production facility as a actual entity is overall the thing I'm most proud of. That entity, as I said, is a 30,000 square foot facility. It's done 1 million deliveries, supermarket deliveries, our own deliveries. It's made over 200 different types of products, high continuity of team there. And what I've seen is like other restaurant groups have not invested in, their strategy is to not build their own back end, so to speak. It's been to use the food distributors. And I understand why. I fully understand why. But I couldn't do that because I was trying to build something unique in terms of the product. Now what's happened is that because minimum wage has gone up so much and labor is harder to stay stable in terms of who's working for you and how committed they are to that job, what I'm seeing is like a lot of great restaurateurs and chefs, but they're like, oh, now I'm paying a sous chef basically, or just somebody just to make, like, they want to have unique French fries. And then there's like one person making French fries all day in for their whole shift, but you have 5 restaurants in New York and there's no equipment, there's no machine, right? There's no economies of scale at all. And I can help those people and I am helping those people because we have that back end and it's humming incredibly well. And so I think you're going to see from us we actually called that business a separate business. We call it Catering Logistics LLC. And I think you're going to see that business. I'm confident you're going to see that business grow dramatically in the next years. And we came up with something I think is really innovative, based on listening to customer feedback and it's interesting you say B2B to start this because it's really a B2B business, right? That I'm doing in my catering logistics business. What I realized was like catering is a very important business for a lot of people. There's a lot of opportunity in the office and people's homes, but like there's a lot of catering going on. And the reality is that catering is a bit of an allure is more difficult than you think, because everybody, like my average ticket is $14. Our average catering ticket's like $500. Everybody wants to have 40 customers at once, especially they're going to pay the delivery fee and stuff like that. But what happens in the stores is, going back to what I was saying about the silos, where it's like you want to have, this day and age, you want to be able to provide a menu to a customer, name an investment bank, law firm, marketing firm, and biotech firm. And you want to say like, okay, you're going to have 50 people here and 10 are gluten-free and 5 are kosher and 5 are halal compliant and 15 are on a diet. And some people, it's like their birthday, and other people are just like, I want to see how expensive what I'm being given is, because that makes me feel like I have a great job. And you have to basically, like, the person setting all this up really doesn't want every day or every meeting to have to call 3 different places. So it really lends itself to somebody who can do it on others' behalf, right? And what I found is that, and I think I'm going to be able to announce in the next couple months, like, I've been able to think about the business as a licensing business for catering and say, we're going to create a menu for you, such and such brand, and you have an amazing brand, and you're known for fried chicken, even. Like, you're known for fried chicken, you're unbelievable at fried chicken. If somebody wants to order from you, that, you know, they want to have a really fun afternoon for 50 people, but that person they don't have sliders, they have no vegan option, they've got no fruit salad, they've got no salads, they've got no dessert. And so if I say to the person, look, I'll buy from you, I'll make everything. Give me the recipes. I'll sign a non-disclosure. I'll do, you know, all these things. I'll make a bunch of the stuff, whatever. I know how to make all the stuff that you don't know how to make, or I have other partners who I'm going to have it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to assemble it. And then on that order, it's go. And that person, you're going to make a royalty, and you're going to make a wholesale. And the idea is, like, really just taking off. And, you know, I think that that business is going to quadruple over the next year. And what's exciting is, like, when I talk to the people who actually operate the restaurants, they really get it. Because, like, you have a great restaurant, you're doing a lunch for X great law firm, it's lunchtime, people are like, the person who's in charge of getting that order is freaking out because you can't find it. The managers can't be found because the person's done with lunch rush. And all of a sudden it's like a nightmare. And that person's afraid of getting fired by his boss.
Mm-hmm.
Versus us, where if we're controlling everything, we've done 1 million deliveries, everything is being assembled by us. Our customer service person has been with us for 8 years. That person's in touch with the production facility. Our production facility knows exactly if it was sent out, and has a tracking device and knows exactly whether it's in our trucks and then is talking to the end user proactively. So that's why it's such a win, because it increases your average ticket because there's more product choices, which probably leads to more repeat orders. It leads to simplicity of operation, and it leads to a higher on time. And so that business I'm super excited about. And then in that process, making a lot of product for these other restaurants I was telling you about is growing very, very rapidly. And in particular, I also want to say on my private production, we bought a gluten-free bakery, and I'm super excited about it because, unfortunately, there's just a very big demand for people who have gluten issues.
Mm-hmm.
And we're very proud to bring this on our platform, fold it into our existing facility. Obviously, this is sectioned off because it's certified, but we feel strongly we can make, and already are, this company, its reputation. We make unbelievable gluten-free baked goods, unbelievable gluten-free pastas, bagels, etc. And it's a very underserved need in the marketplace. So I think I'm getting tremendous inquiries from all kinds of different avenues to provide them with product for that.
Wow, awesome, very nice. So I have one more question for you, but just first, tell me how anybody can find out about everything you've got going on, whether it's franchising or just Juice Press in general, or anything.
I still think that just for the simple, because I wasn't expecting that question here, I would say the best thing to do is still email me at mk@juicepress.com. I'll connect you to the appropriate person, because still the franchising, I'm ready to give a person one opportunity and see how it works, because I'd like to, as I said, like to create that track record. The nice thing is that person would be able to basically essentially step right into it and day one, be able to get going. I do, but I said like that track record's important. But I have to meet it's important that I really connect with that person, and really clear they want to keep the standards and you're going to follow our game plan. The catering, I'll direct, like it's on our website, our catering menu. You're going to start, and I think you'll start to see, I know you'll start to see brands. You're going to start to wonder, wonder if that was like, all of a sudden I'm seeing this very famous brand like out advertising for catering, and then you might see. But I think we will take the next step once we have about 12 partners in that on board. We'll probably do like a kind of like what Easy Cater's doing. But see, Easy Cater right now, great valuation, solid company. But what Easy Cater is really doing is they have no back end really. Like meaning they are helping you coordinate a pickup, but the customer service is not exactly the same, and there's zero shared production. So therefore, you have the same issue. It's like, do I want to have for my team a salad, or do I want my team to have cupcakes, or do I want to start ordering from all these places individually? Our solution is so my point is that I'm going to hire corporate catering salespeople, and they'll see like the whole menu, and because it's a B2B, I laugh because like in my stock picking days, we used to talk about Cisco stock all the time, and it was like, why did chief technology officers always buy Cisco routers? Because it was like, because what value is there in you being the person to buy some startup router and then it doesn't work and then you're fired? At least if the Cisco router, which is the best, goes down, like 70% of the chief technology officers also use the router. We think like, why take with the brands we're going to be bringing on and the diversity inclusiveness of our product? Our feeling is, why would you take a chance on some random individual restaurant when you've already would have dealt with us 10 times, 12 times, and that we're the highest probability you have of being successful, of having it on time and looking good in front of your clients, bosses, etc.
Sure. Hey, last question for you. You've been very generous with your time. Thanks so much. So when you're in New York or maybe in LaGuardia or something, and you stop by Juice Press as a customer, what is your go-to combination of items?
Thanks. I mean, you can imagine, because I sit in the back of the store like right now. So I'm around my product all the time. My wife, who's my partner, she also has her favorites. Very invested in it. I'm dreaming it right now. Game On. I think it's a classic example of why we think like a premium and functionality. It's like great for post-workout, excellent electrolytes, and you can just taste how real the ingredients are. And that makes me feel really happy. Yeah, you're going to pay a bit more for it, but it's still it's a great trade-off for most people. So I think this is amazing. Our number one smoothie is always the Blue Magic. It's remarkable to see its consistency. But this time of year when it's this hot out, the watermelon mango is my favorite. And we have a watermelon juice, which is like the freshest by far. And so those would be some examples of things I'm passionate about. But I have like in my lineup, I have like a dozen. If I'm looking for a Gatorade, I focus on like Recover 180. I really like, and there's a brand called Accelerator, which is kind of in the Celsius category. They're in that better for you category, the third party products.
Okay, awesome. Sounds great. Hey,
Thanks.
Michael, it's been great to talk to you. Thank you so much for sharing all of
It's a
your
pleasure.
insights.
I really appreciate it.
your
Bye.
time. Have a great one.
You too.
So long, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Top Business Leaders Show, powered by Rise 25. Visit rise25.com to check out more episodes of the show and to learn more about how you can start your own podcast.